remember telling Barbara Walters that I was pregnant and worrying that she was going to think that I wasn't as serious.
You can see how she would.
Yes.
What I think of the image of Barbara Walters, we think about. Now,
yeah.
why would you do that?
Exactly. Exactly. Well, okay. Well, I guess I hope we're going to see you 3 weeks after, that kind of thing. And she could not have been lovelier, and she could not have been more honest and truthful about the fact that she wishes maybe she had spent a little more time on her personal life. And she said to me, go and do what you need to do. Take the time, spend the time, just come on back when you're ready. And I was floored.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to How She Does It, the podcast where we hear behind-the-scenes stories from some of the biggest movers and shakers across business, tech, entertainment, media, and more. And our goal is to help you by asking them how they do it. I'm Karen Feinerman. I'm a long-term Wall Street investor and a mom of four, and a panelist on CNBC's Fast Money. Deborah Roberts is an Emmy and Peabody award-winning journalist. She is co-anchor of the ABC News magazine 2020, where she goes deep into some of the biggest true crime stories of the day. She has also traveled the globe for ABC News, reporting from Africa, Bangladesh, and beyond. She is a New York Times best-selling author, and her latest book is a tribute to her time growing up with her 6 sisters in Perry, Georgia. It's called Sisters, Loved and Treasured, Stories of Unbreakable Bonds. Deborah is such a delight. During our conversation, we chatted about what it meant to her to be named co-anchor of 2020, how even as an adult, she's striving to be a better sister, and lessons for her daughter on the verge of her wedding. We had a great time. Hope you enjoy our conversation. Deborah Roberts, thank you so much for being here.
It's a pleasure to be here, and I love the comfy chairs. Thank you.
Oh, good. We got a lot to talk about. I want to start with your book.
Yes.
Sisters, Loved and Treasured.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm curious, when you decided to write this book about your sisters, and you told them about it.
Yeah.
What was their reaction?
One of them just went quiet, my youngest sister. Most of them were, I think, excited, but I think the question that they had was, what are we revealing here? What is this all about? So the idea, I think, was great, but then my youngest sister thought, is this about spilling tea and sort of revealing family secrets and maybe making somebody feel bad? What are we doing here? So I think they wanted a little clarification that this wasn't just digging into our dark closets and bringing out something that might have been uncomfortable.
You grew up with 6 sisters.
6
that
sisters.
Alone is
one bathroom.
One bathroom. That is even more extraordinary.
A ranch-style, small, 4-bedroom home with one bathroom. And I just remember so many of my memories are of us all like crowding in the bathroom. You know, somebody's taking a shower. Somebody needs to go take a leak. Somebody needs to brush her hair. And just oftentimes we were all in the bathroom and somebody would tell a joke and we'd start laughing. It's like, get out, I'm trying to take a shower, you know. But that was kind of this whole communal thing with my sisters. We were just always right there on top of each other. My brothers were off doing other things, but the sisters were always there and loud and cacophonous, and it was a roaring household.
So your brothers then had 6 sisters and 1 bathroom, and did they ever get to go to the bathroom?
Rarely.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Where were you in the order?
I was number 7.
7.
So I had I have 2 younger sisters, and so I was kind of like lost in the mix of everybody else who was much older.
So you had 6 sisters, 4 of whom are still with us: Janet, Tina, Bonita, and Belinda.
That's right.
Okay, and Annette and Benny have passed away.
We have passed away. We lost Annette about 1.5 years ago to early dementia, Alzheimer's, and then our sister Benny we lost many years ago, and to our, I think, maybe shock and maybe surprise, we knew that she struggled a little bit with what appeared to be mental illness, but at that time, who knew? We didn't really talk about those kinds of things in the family. And we later discovered, too, that she also had an alcohol addiction, which obviously she was self-medicating, dealing with her pain. And she ultimately did have breast cancer, but we lost her in a very painful way.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear. One of the things interesting in the book, you talk about being a better sister, the feeling of you could be a better sister.
Yeah.
And that comes up a few times.
It does come up a few times because first of all, I have to say, I have always been a little bit of a high achiever, somebody who blames myself. I think all my sisters will make jokes about that. And I sort of felt over the years a little bit responsible because I do have a very high profile career and I travel a lot and very high octane. I thought maybe I am just not as connected to the sisters because I would see on social media, my youngest sister and another sister who live in Georgia, Tina, sometimes they would post because one visited the other, or my sister Benita, who lives in Texas, she's a court reporter, and sometimes her job would bring her to, Georgia, and she would connect. And I thought maybe I'm the one who's not such a great sister. Maybe I'm not staying as connected. But what I discovered when I started talking to other women who have sisters is that, life just sort of takes over, and it doesn't mean you're a bad sister. It just means sometimes we drift, and sometimes we have moments in our lives where we're more closely connected. Clearly, when we were younger, we're in the same house. But when you're making your own lives and going about it, sometimes you sort of drift. But it doesn't necessarily mean you are not feeling connected to your sisters. And that's what I really discovered, I think, about doing this book.
Yeah, there's something about that sisterly bond.
There is something.
You can't escape it if
you
wanted
cannot
to.
escape it if you want to. Exactly. Simone
Right.
Swink, one of our executive producers at ABC News, who has a sister and talked about their bond over Simone's breast cancer, said that's a relationship you can't quit.
Right.
Even if you want to, you can't quit it.
Yeah.
And there is something about that. You are linked, really. And there are plenty of estranged sisters who choose not to be so linked, but nobody else shares that foundation with you, that childhood, those memories, that history, those little moments in life.
Right.
Not even your best friend can claim that.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to really reveal with this book, that the bond is complicated, that it is not perfect, but there is a bond there that is worth exploring.
Well, one of the other sort of phenomenons of having a bunch of sisters is one of them is this one,
Yes.
the sporty one,
Yes.
the bossy one.
Yes.
And
Yes.
And you might be pegged in that as a kid and maybe never can outgrow it.
You never can outgrow
What were you?
it. I was probably the high achieving, slightly popular. Well, I don't know. I was the one who was like always thinking outside the box. It was interesting when my sisters were here, they had an opportunity to dip into some of the publicity for the book. And they, appeared on The View with me and on Kelly and Mark and Good Morning America. And every now and again, something would pop up where one of the hosts would ask us, crazy question like, well, what was she like, and was she the this or was she the that? And they would all say, yeah, she was that one. She was like the favorite, or she was the... And so it's interesting. You do carry these labels on over the course of the years. And we explored that when we were talking, my sisters and I, when I interviewed them for the book. My youngest sister, whom I've had a few bumps with over the years. We haven't necessarily always seen eye to eye. I saw her as the young, spoiled sister, and she saw me as a controlling, know-it-all older sister. And so we kind of clarified some of our perceptions about each other. And I have to say, I think the whole process of this book and releasing it and talking about it has brought us closer.
That's interesting. Like things they assume and vice versa.
Exactly.
That your whole take on the childhood was different.
Was totally different because no two kids have the same upbringing, even though you grew up in the same house.
Yes.
But it was interesting. My sister, Belinda, my youngest, said to me in a moment of honesty, she said, I always kind of felt like Mom loved you more. And that was the first time she'd ever given voice to that. I suppose maybe I wondered if there had been a little something there or a little resentment, but I so appreciated that she put it out there. And then she said, of course, I was a kid, and now as an adult and a mom myself and knowing the complexities of having children, I see it differently. But she said, but as a kid, I think I sort of felt that. And suddenly I had an awareness and kind of an awakening about what might have been going on for her. And I suddenly started to understand her a little more. And hopefully she began to understand me a little bit more too. So it's been really interesting that way. Conversations bubbling up for sisters that they never would have had.
So you were the favorite, maybe.
I
is
was
the
not the
perception.
favorite. I say no, but they all jokingly say yeah. And we all had our moments. My sister Benny, the one I was telling you about that we lost, was sort of a favorite of my dad's. My dad's name was Ben. Benny Ruth is her name. She was named for him. Benny was a bright star in the family. She was like the first black cheerleader in our area because I grew up in the post-segregated South. So she was sort of the one who led the way. But by the time I came along in the 70s, life had changed a lot. And I think I just maybe took advantage of the path that she had paved and I went with it and had great dreams and aspirations. So I don't know. That's what they say, but I don't really think I was. But I did have a special relationship with my mom, and maybe that was sort of the reason people seem to see it that way.
My kids always ask me, which of us is your favorite?
And what do you say?
I say, it changes. Try really hard to be in first place.
It's true.
Yeah.
It changes. It really
It does.
Yeah.
So I want to know, what are your memories of growing up in this big family in Perry, Georgia? It was somewhat of a tumultuous time.
Yeah.
In the country.
I sort of, you're absolutely right. But I think for me, and my sisters have always my sister Janet calls me Miss Pollyanna, because you always have this bright way of looking at everything. My memories of this big family in this little house, which I didn't realize was like a fairly small house until much later in life when we would go back home. I really feel a lot of warmth when I think back on those days, even if times were difficult and my parents were struggling and stretching dollars and, we didn't have a lot of money. But I really did just feel a lot of warmth and protection with my sisters. But I also remember trying to find my voice, trying to find a way to make my mark a little bit in the family and to stand out. And that might be why I became a little bit of an overachiever, because I was trying to find a little distinction in this big family. And I've heard that from other people too. Sometimes you would feel like you got a little lost amidst all the chaos, but it was happy chaos.
Were you all in the same school, given the age, the span?
Not quite. We all had different experiences, because if you think back to when I was born and growing up in the late 60s, my oldest brother and sister were already in high school, and my brother had joined the Air Force, and they were cycling out as I was growing up. So we probably went to the same segregated high school for a few years of my life. I remember that they had gone there, but then we integrated schools, and then I started at a new elementary school, which my older sisters had not. By the time we integrated, they started in a high school in the town. My younger sisters came along with me in that school. So they were just different school experiences because of what was happening, the changing South, and the way things were working for us. But for the most part, most of us did file through the same schools, but obviously not at the same time. My two younger sisters closer, yes, we were in school at the same time.
So did you start at a segregated school?
Yes.
And then went to an integrated school? Was that a difficult transition? Or?
I remember in fourth grade. So I integrated schools in fourth grade. My husband just cannot believe that I actually remember segregation and colored waiting rooms and the signs. I absolutely remember that at the doctor's office. I remember seeing it more as an adventure. I still remember my dad having a talk with us the morning of the day that we were switching schools, and having a talk at breakfast that, just don't be too worried and everything's going to be okay. And if somebody says something to you, you just look them in the eye and don't you get into any, scuffles or fights. There was a real conversation about this is a big moment of transition in your lives. So just take it easy. We're going to get through this. And I do remember expecting something really earth-shattering to happen when I went to school. And it was a little unusual and awkward. I mean, I had seen white kids in the community, but I'd never gone to school with them. And suddenly, in the same classroom, I remember just feeling like we kind of went to the moon or something, these new beings here. But then suddenly, we're on the playground, and one girl, Belinda Hambrick, I still remember her name, Belinda Hambrick, somehow says something kind of nice, and we start playing, and then someone else, Renee Lee, and so suddenly it just became just kids in school and not a big deal, and just a new experience. Now, in the high school where my older sisters went, there were a few scuffles and things like that. Things said these are teenagers. So they had a few issues in their school for a while before things settled down. But for me, I felt it was more of an adventure, and it led me to write my first solo book about the teacher who changed your life, Mrs. Dorothy Hardy, whom I would meet a couple of years later, an English teacher. And I just sort of embraced these new experiences and everything that was offered.
Was she maybe the start of your interest in journalism?
Maybe in some way, because she was this very tough taskmaster who demanded like excellence in, your writing and in your conjugation and all of that stuff. And I think I was so fascinated by it and wanted to rise to the occasion and be a good speaker and a good writer. And so maybe, I didn't know journalism at the time. I knew television journalism. I watched Walter Cronkite and the CBS Evening News because that was the only network that we could get in my little town. But I don't know that I knew that I wanted to be a journalist. I just knew I wanted to be good and I wanted the English language. It was something that I really liked, and I wanted to be good at speaking and perfecting it and knowing words that were interesting and so forth. So she kind of lit a little bit of a fire in me, I think.
Were you ever shy?
Yes.
It's not coming through.
Yeah, I was shy. I actually was shy. Again, I came from a big family. I had sisters who had big personalities, and I was trying to, find my footing. So I think in the very beginning of my elementary school years, and I remember feeling kind of shy, but I guess I eventually stepped out of that pretty well. I overcame that.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So when you graduated, and then you went to
University of Georgia. Go Dogs.
Which I know.
Go Dogs.
Yeah. And then so you decide, okay, I'm going to embark on a career of journalism.
So
what did that look like?
Here's what happened. In high school, I was starting to obviously find my voice, and I was a cheerleader, and I was in all these clubs. And I would say in high school, I thought I wanted to do something in front of the camera. And I wasn't sure what that was. So when I went off to college, I pursued drama. My first quarter, I thought I want to enroll in a drama class because I think that's what I'm going to do. And the minute I got into some of these drama classes and these kids who were like very eccentric and very drama focused and a little bit odd and all, I was like, I don't think that's what I want. That's not what I'm really interested in. And then I took a journalism course the next quarter, and I was like, boom, a light bulb went off. It was all about exploring the truth and interesting stories and bringing them to life and talking about other people and what we can discover in this world of ours. And I thought, that's what I really want to do. Maybe television journalism is what I want. And then I was off to the races.
So off to the races in this field could be a few stops in somewhat out of the way places. Yeah. Was that your journey as well?
I did that.
Where'd you go?
Of course, I'm in Georgia, the University of Georgia, so I had an internship at a little station in Macon, Georgia, WMAZ-TV, which was like the front runner in television in that area. My parents were so excited. My mom's like, oh my gosh, my daughter's a TV star. Yeah, exactly. I was like, Mom, I'm an intern at WMAZ. But, she was so excited, and nobody in my family had ever done anything quite like that. And I really just had this fire in me. And so I had that internship, and then I got another internship in Atlanta at public television covering the state legislature.
So that's a much bigger stage,
much bigger stage. And I got a chance to know some of our legislators and how laws work and, make all kinds of mistakes and go home crying because I didn't report this story quite right, or I got this legal thing wrong that, a law that was just passed. That was an opportunity to get out there and feel what it is like to explore the world and to try to interpret it for other people, and maybe to make some mistakes and have my executives get upset with me. But I was undeterred. I loved it. And then I got my first job out of college, small town, WTVM in Columbus, Georgia. And then I got my next job because we were always looking through those like broadcast news magazines for the next job. And I got the next one in Knoxville, Tennessee, WBIR. And each time I was making my way up the ladder, a little bit more responsibility. responsibility. And I tell this story often about working at WBIR TV. I had never done a live shot, but I failed to tell the news director that. So my first week on the job, he sent me out to do a live shot, and it was a disaster. I had no idea what I was doing. But anyway, I obviously made my way through that very well, and then went on to Orlando, WFTV. And from there, I went on to network television, that other network. NBC.
How did you get to, that's a leap though, to get to,
It is.
How did you get to New York and network television?
Well, I covered the space industry, and I covered space launches, and this was after the Challenger accident, and we were making our way back. And I had a couple of opportunities to have a little national exposure, and then there was somebody else I knew who worked at the Space Center for NBC who put in a word for me about maybe you all ought to look around at some of these other reporters in these markets other than Chicago and LA and all the big television markets in New York. And, I got an agent and I submitted my tape, and to my shock and surprise, NBC was looking for another space reporter, and I got a call and I had a chance to interview, and I guess I fooled him. I fooled him big time.
Well, it couldn't have been really fooling them. You're still around.
I'm still around.
Okay, so you're at NBC for a few years. That's where you meet your future husband.
Oh, that
Al
guy,
Roker.
Mr. Roker. Yes, that's where we met. On the set of the Today Show. He was filling in for Willard Scott. I was filling in for Deborah Norville, another fellow Georgian, University of Georgia grad. And, we had known each other a little bit around the building, and I knew her sister in school. So it was kind of a big kick to get a chance to not only sub for Deborah, but to be on network news. And Al and I kind of knew who he was, of course. He did local news, but he was filling in. And it was my birthday. And I had been fairly new to the station. And nobody really knew it was my birthday, and I was embarrassed, but I wanted somebody to know it was my birthday. And Al said, "Oh my gosh, happy birthday." And he says, "Well, is anybody taking you out to lunch?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, you know what, I'm very busy, but maybe like in a few days or whatever, let's go out to lunch. I'd love to get to know you more and say hello." So we did. And we were just friendly. He was supportive while I was beginning my network career. And over time, he was married at the time, but over time he wound up getting a divorce. I moved to Florida and other places and covered the Olympics in Spain and so forth. But we eventually began to see each other, and here we are 30 plus years later, still doing it.
Wow. So is it a plus or a minus to have a partner who's in the same industry as you?
I'm conflicted because many times I feel like it's a plus. I love that Al and I understand each other. We understand the industry. I understand the pressures he's up against, and he often will try to produce something I'm doing. He offers advice like, maybe you could shoot this if you go. Al, stay out of it. So it's kind of fun that way, and we can trade industry gossip in a way that's more interesting. But there are times where I think it would be more intriguing if he were not in the industry. If he was in finance or in medicine or something, and we did things that are totally different. Sometimes I wouldn't feel conflicted. There have been times where Al and I have, not often, but we have competed for the same story. That hasn't happened often, but, he does a lot of Hollywood celebrities, and there have been times where there's a story I wanted to do. So there are times where I think it would be nice if we weren't in the same industry, but it definitely is helpful that we get each other.
One of the things that I found interesting was your decision. You're on GMA. You decided after your first child, right, that you would step back from that.
Yeah, even before she was born.
Really?
Yeah. Well, what happened was there was, I was filling in a lot as the GMA news reader, and it was sort of leading toward possible permanent position, which you're right, it's a plum position. I will say I had been through a couple of rounds of IVF. I was having difficulty conceiving. I had had a miscarriage. And this was very, very hard for me trying to get pregnant. And finally, I was pregnant. And GMA was also having some challenging times at that time with hosts and things not working out. And the network was sort of spiraling a little bit. The numbers weren't really great because it's a dogfight in the morning between all those morning shows. And GMA was having a particularly tough time at that moment. And so when I was approached about the position, of course I was excited about it, but I was so conflicted, and I didn't expect to feel that. But here I am at that point, 7 months, 8 months pregnant, and finally getting ready to have this little baby. And at that point, Al had a solid gig on the Today Show. So he's the morning weather guy, and he's getting up at 3:34 in the morning, heading off to work. And something takes over, I guess, when you're about to become a mom. You really start thinking about not only that child, but the future and what you're going to give them. And just, I don't know, just in a very big way that I did not expect, I started thinking about the fact that both of us would be leaving the house at 4 in the morning and leaving the baby and handing the baby over to a babysitter. And it pained me. I thought, is this kind of really what I wanted to do, to become a mom and suddenly start chasing off? So it was sort of this conflict of, I kind of don't know what's happening right now with the show on the network, and is it going to be great? Is this going to be a great opportunity for me? Am I going to possibly regret it? And also, I'm a new mom and I'm starting off pretty quickly, and I'm leaving the house at 3 in the morning, and am I going to really have the hard time figuring that out? So it was very, very hard for me. And I guess I just went with my gut and said, I think I got to stay home with my baby a little bit, which I didn't plan to just stay home, period. I just didn't know that I wanted to do morning television and all that it would require at that time. Because you have to prove yourself. When you come in to a new gig, even though I had been on it, you got to prove yourself. You got to run and jump and go and do to solidify that position. And I just thought I might really struggle with the idea of being so ambitious at this moment after I've worked so hard to have this child. So it was very hard.
I would bet. Because it's not like those jobs are easy to
That's
get,
right.
and you can just, I'll just step back into that.
Exactly. It was a big sacrifice.
Did you feel ambivalence? Because that's a tough decision.
It was a tough decision, and I felt it, and also I felt it afterwards too, because in this industry as a woman, particularly back then, it's better now, but particularly back then, you would get labeled as you're off on the mommy track. And if you turn down a big position, whether it's in corporate America or in television or whatever, you're seen as maybe not as ambitious, not as serious, maybe not as excited about making your way through this industry. And I worried about that. And I did feel that after I came back from maternity leave, that maybe there were some who looked at me as not as ambitious as they had in the very beginning. And I had to kind of work my way back, and I had to prove myself and take some assignments that were far-flung just to make it very clear that I was just as committed as I had been before I left. But it was hard. I remember telling Barbara Walters that I was pregnant and worrying that she was going to think that I wasn't as serious.
You can see how she would.
Yes.
What I think of the image of Barbara Walters would think about. Now, why would you do that?
Exactly. Well, okay. Well, I guess I hope we're going to see you 3 weeks after, that kind of thing. And she could not have been lovelier, and she could not have been more honest and truthful about the fact that she wishes maybe she had spent a little more time on her personal life. And she said to me, go and do what you need to do. Take the time, spend the time, just come on back when you're ready. And I was floored because I didn't expect that. So, that was a different time.
I remember one of my earlier corporate Wall Street jobs of not having pictures of my children.
Absolutely. You didn't want people coming in thinking the family was your focus.
Right.
You wanted them to think the job was what you were really more about.
So speaking of Barbara Walters, fast forward, you end up as the co-anchor of 2020.
Crazy.
Yes.
Because I remember just lying on the shag carpet in our den watching 2020 as a kid. And my sister Janet loved Barbara Walters in 2020, and we would all watch it on Friday nights. And of course, so many of us aspired to be like Barbara Walters, who said, this is our, 2020, she talked about the program that way. And between her and, obviously 60 Minutes being the news magazine of record, those were the two shows that I just aspired to be able to be a journalist and to land on one of these magazine shows was just a dream. So to not only join the family at 2020 as a correspondent, but then to later be handed the torch to carry on the legacy of Barbara it's beyond a dream come true. It really is something that as a kid I probably dreamt about, and here it is. It's stunning to me every day when I come into the building and realize I'm anchoring with David Muir. It's incredible.
That is kind of an incredible turn of events.
I would say, yeah. And for my family, too, I think it was also very exciting. And ultimately, I think it was like a point of great pride for my family.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
So 2020 really speaks to people's obsession with true crime.
It has become that now. It has become that. When I joined 2020, it was really more about the human experience and stories that, as Hugh Downs used to say, touch our world. And now, over the years, we've morphed into true crime, and that is a genre that people are following all over, from podcasts to other programs. So it has become that, and it still fascinates me that people are so intrigued by it. Because
Are you not intrigued by it? It's intriguing.
I am, but you know what? When I'm sitting across from a mom who's lost a daughter in a very tragic way, or in a prison across from a guy who committed a horrible crime, and I'm just so horrified often by what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing out there, I'm thinking, wow. Now, occasionally some of these stories are just stranger than fiction. You know, the Murdoch story down in South Carolina, or others that I've covered. I mean, I absolutely get it. I mean, one I am working on right now for 2020 about a woman who disappeared from her beauty salon down in Florida, and authorities assumed it might have been an ex-boyfriend or husband of hers, and it turned out to be somebody you never would have expected. So there are those mysterious stories like that captivate. But it's amazing to me that we continue to do those week after week, and people continue to be just absorbed by them. Yeah.
So, given your experience there, do you think you could plot the perfect crime?
That's a good question. No, I don't think I could. Because what happens is we discover all the time when we're doing these stories with people that they thought they could plot the perfect crime. Sometimes it might be somebody who is in law enforcement. Sometimes it might be somebody who is in medicine, who knows so much about life in a bigger professional way, and they think they've plotted the perfect crime. But I got to tell you, with technology today, it's just not going to happen. There are cameras everywhere. There is tracking everywhere. There's forensics now that can find the last thing that you Googled, the last place that you sat and looked at on your phone. Even if you didn't research how to dispose of a body, which is so awful, even if you didn't do all of that research, there is something somewhere, a doorbell ring camera. There is something that is going to capture you somewhere that's going to link you to a crime. So no, I'm not trying it.
Comforting in some way.
It's comforting in some way. I'm not trying it. Nope. Nope. And my husband can actually rest assured now that that won't be happening.
So do you sometimes just marvel at how stupid some of the
Yes, I do.
criminals are? Yes.
Yes. I oftentimes with my producers, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, didn't we just do this story? What are you talking about? We covered this already. Go, no, that was the one in Florida.
Yeah.
No,
Have
this was
people
in
learned
Idaho.
nothing from-
Yes.
from-
Yes. I'm like, do they not watch 2020? I mean, they would know that this is not something that you can get away with.
Switching gears a little bit, can you tell me what you did with the first big paycheck that you earned?
Oh my gosh. I don't think I bought a stereo or anything like that. Al had actually gifted me a stereo at some point. I probably bought like an Armani outfit.
Okay.
I'm a fashion girl.
Clothes horse, I
I'm
know.
a fashion girl.
Yes.
I bought an Armani pantsuit, I think.
All right, you mentioned your daughter's getting married.
Yes, Leila. Yeah.
How's mother of the bride?
I'm pretty good, although in between my job, 2020 ABC News, and promoting this book and trying to help her organize with her wedding fittings and the caterer and the florist and all of that, I'm starting to get a little rattled. I'm getting a little rattled, but we're doing really well. But Leila lives in Paris, and so she has been over there since college. She decided to stay, so her fiance is French. And because we are doing this over the miles, and we have a great wedding planner who's helping us, I wake up in the morning, and because of the time difference, there's an email from her. Oh, Mom, what about this? And if I come home in December, can I schedule that fitting, and can you go with me? Okay, yeah, it'll be great, Leila. It's 7 a.m. I just woke up, and I'm already waking up to emails about this or the guest list. And I thought, Mom, should we put so-and-so on? I know we didn't have it. It's nonstop right now with the planning. And it's next May. We still have a ways off, but it's a lot. But I'm very excited as mom of the bride because she has found her dress and she's excited. So if she's found her dress and she's happy, then I can be happy and I'll worry about the other stuff later.
What do your kids think of their mom's career?
I think they're proud. It's very cute. My son, Nick, who is still in college in a little school up in Vermont, and we talk a lot and we're very close, he often will say things to me, like, say, for instance, about this book. And I said, oh, no, I'm just so nervous. And I don't know how it's going to work out. And I'm trying to juggle everything. And, I'm working on this at night, sometimes and on the weekends. He says, Mom, it's going to be a great success. It's going to be a great success. It's really sweet. He's very supportive. He follows what I do. He often has questions about who I interviewed and how did it go. And Leila, it's interesting, having a 20-something-year-old daughter who you used to fight with in high school or when she was younger about various things, to have her say, Mom, I learned from you that I need to do this, or I can handle that, or I thought about you today when I was doing such and such because I felt like I could handle it. I was like, whoa.
Wow.
It's high praise. She's actually starting to think that my life and my career mattered in some way. And I'm happy to see that, because as a mom, you often judge yourself. And you often think that, you're not home enough and you're traveling and you're sending the signal that you're so focused on work. And it's nice to see that they appreciate it from time to time, and they see you as a strong, capable person as opposed to just a mom who was always pursuing her career.
So there's a section in your book about your daughter and her sister,
Courtney,
right?
my
Who's
stepdaughter.
Your stepdaughter, and their relationship. And how is it seeing that evolve?
It was very interesting because when I'm exploring sisters, somebody said to me, well, are you talking to your own daughter and Courtney? And I said, well, I never thought of it. They said, well, they might feel a little insulted that you didn't ask them. You're talking about sisters. And of course, once I started delving into it, I thought there's sisterhood in all kinds of ways. I mean, they're stepsisters, they're half-sisters. And I thought that would be very interesting because I'd love to hear what they think about their relationship. And it was really eye-opening for me. And I think for them to be honest about what they felt. Leila, who felt resentful sometimes when, Courtney wasn't as present, and she's the older sister and didn't give her as much time. Courtney, who sometimes resented Leila because there's a new family and I'm not involved in this new family and your vacations all the time. So they sort of explored that a little bit and talked about how they came to a point where now they appreciate and love each other in a very different way, and they had to create a bond that wasn't necessarily easily won. And I thought that was really great, and I think we all felt emotional when we did our interview with them.
I'll bet.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, that's nice to have that opportunity to have their relationship.
And to kind of explore it in a way that you wouldn't normally. You talk about things that you wouldn't normally put on the table. And that's what I loved so much about this book.
Do you enjoy writing books?
I do. But, it's funny. I'm the kind of person who loves to bite off probably more than I need to be chewing. I love exploring the human experience. To the extent that I wrote these two books in the way that I do my work, journalism, I interview people and talk to people. I have enjoyed that. If I was just writing it from my experience as a memoir, I'm not sure that I would love it as much, but I love talking to people. So in this case, yeah. I don't know if I'm going to do it again soon. It was a lot of work, but I enjoyed it.
How do you do it? How do you make it all work? You got two busy careers, right? You got the wedding.
Yeah. You ask, how do I do it? Not very well all the time. I will say that. And, women get hit. You know this. Women get hit with this question more often than men. How do you juggle it? How do you do it all? I think over the years, I've become more comfortable saying no. That's always very hard for me. I'm a real people pleaser. So I'm getting more comfortable saying no, whether it is to an assignment that just absolutely conflicts with something that I feel is important, or an event or an invitation to go do something. That is helpful. Trying to prioritize the things that really matter in my life, whether it's my sisters and one of my sisters who's dealing with chemo, and I actually pulled out of an assignment so I could fly down to Georgia and just be with her for a couple of days, or my daughter being late for something because I'm on the phone with Leila talking about the wedding. I think I am willing now to take charge a little bit more of my life and say no to certain things, or to move things around so that I can try to accommodate the things that matter most. And what mostly matters to me is family.
Okay, so how do you and Al, what's the division of labor?
Who knows?
Who's in charge of IT at home?
Well, first of all, that's him. I can tell you that right now because he's obsessed with that kind of thing. He loves technology. Al loves to cook. So he cooks in the family. Mostly makes all the meals. I mean, I'm a breakfast cook, and when the kids are home, I love to make
breakfast
pancakes.
cook. Yeah,
that I like. That's kind of easy. We're very fortunate. We have people who help us around the house. So, we're not like having to divide up like cleaning the closet in the bathroom and all of that all the time. But I think we divide things up enough that it feels fairly. I don't love that he cooks and I have to wash the dishes. I hate that. I mean, I just don't love that because I always hated washing the dishes when I was a kid. So I argue about that a fair amount, but he thinks it's fair. So we wind up going in that direction.
He kind of has a point.
He kind of has a point. Yeah, he kind of does.
Yeah, you got to know when to
But I'm more of the
cave
organizer with the household and, with things, when we're kind of becoming pack rats as we're getting a little bit older. Not quite hoarders, but it's like, what is this thing? And it's like something.
Slope.
Yes, it's a slippery slope. Somebody gave me this at something, or what is this thing? Oh, those are my letters from blah, blah, blah. I don't know. So I'm trying to organize a little bit more around the house.
All right, Deborah, are you ready for the lightning round?
Maybe. We'll see.
You were born ready. Okay, so here's some fun questions.
Okay.
If you would you rather.
Okay.
All I ask is just give us the first thing pops into your head.
Okay.
Don't really think about it.
Okay.
Okay, would you rather be in New York City or upstate?
Upstate.
Would you rather be decked out for a red carpet or lounging in sweats?
I like being decked out.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yes, you do. You're
Yeah,
good at it.
I like
okay. Would you rather be front row at a fashion show or reporting at the Met Gala?
Oh, front row at the fashion show because I want to see it all. Yeah.
Okay. Do you prefer dahlias or hydrangeas?
Ooh, that's a hard one.
Yeah, our producer had this. I didn't
That's
come
a
up with
hard
this out
one.
of nowhere.
I'm going to say dahlias because they're just so explosively beautiful. And they are very short-lived. It's a short-lived season.
Okay. Would you rather your beautiful trench coat from the 2020 promos, that beautiful silk trench coat, would you rather that it stays in your closet or goes to the Smithsonian?
Ooh, Smithsonian.
Ah, okay.
That's history.
Would you rather preside as a judge on a headline-grabbing case or dance on stage with the ABT?
If I could dance, I would dance on stage. That would be very cool. Misty Copeland just absolutely dazzled me. And to be able to do something like that, I would dance.
Okay. Misty Copeland is something else.
The bomb.
Okay.
The bomb.
Would you rather interview Kirby Smart, for those who might not know, the coach
At the University of Georgia Bulldogs.
Okay. Or Beyonce?
Oh, that's a tough one. Kirby Smart. I've interviewed Beyonce before.
Okay.
With Destiny's Child.
Would you rather run a 10K or run a marathon?
A 10K. I would like the credit for running a marathon, but the 10K is easier.
Okay. Would you rather be moved or laugh uncontrollably?
Be moved.
Okay, if you weren't a television journalist, what would you be doing?
I probably would run a florist. I love flowers.
Wow.
I don't want to deal with the business part of it, but I love flowers. So I don't know. I might run a florist.
Okay, that's a great answer. Okay, we know Al's big cook in the house, as you said, but I have heard that you make the best potato salad.
Southern potato salad, honey. Ruth
It's
Roberts
true.
potato salad.
Is that your signature dish?
That and a mojito.
Okay. All right, the last one in two parts. What's the best investment you ever made, and what's the worst investment you've ever made, with a broad definition of investment? Doesn't need to be a stock or something.
A chocolate brown crocodile skirt, which I still love 20 plus years later. I don't deal in worst investments. So if I did something that I didn't like, I moved on and forgot about it.
Okay. Very good answer. Deborah, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciated
It was a
time
pleasure.
and being with you.
Thank you so much for enjoying my book.
Deborah's book, Sisters, Loved and Treasured, is available now. You can see more of Deborah on ABC's 2020 Friday night and streaming the next day on Hulu and Disney+. You can also hear more of the 2020 podcast she hosts called The After Show, available wherever you get your podcasts and on video on Hulu and Disney+. Wishing you a fabulous week, and if you have a sister, give her a call. We'll have another great conversation for you soon. Until then, onward.